Mr. O'Flynn, 2.5 minutes.
There's an old saying that he who pays the piper calls the tune, and it certainly seems to apply to the creative sector where the European Union is concerned. More than €1 billion has been spent on the current Creative Europe programme, and in return, I must note, the creative sector overwhelmingly backed EU membership during the UK referendum. We certainly had our artists for Brexit who did not, but those at the commanding heights of our cultural institutions were generally in favour of staying in. Fortunately, the great British public had other ideas and did not follow the direction of those we refer to somewhat sarcastically as the great and the good. Now, there's no doubt that the creative sector is an area in which Europe has a competitive advantage. Were you to ask the people the world over which continent has the richest cultural heritage, it's difficult to imagine Europe not coming top. We've had most of the greatest painters, classical composers, writers, and architects the world has ever seen. It's also true that down the ages, many writers, artists and musicians have depended on wealthy patrons to further their careers. The royal court of the Habsburg Empire was a noted sponsor of art and music, for instance, so it's perhaps no surprise to find the court of the Juncker Empire following suit. The danger is, though, that yes, indeed, he who pays the piper calls the tune. The various strands of Creative Europe naturally place a high value on funding activities that elevate the European collective identity above national identities. In this, the intention, I think, is to promote the creation of a European demos, which trumps national affinities, and such a demos is certainly required to make sense of the EU's mania for ever closer union, but there's little sign of its emergence. The danger is that subsidised culture becomes dull culture, lured towards safe and politically correct choices that won't rock the boat with the sponsor. In the case of the Habsburgs, it was the uninspiring Salieri who retained the lucrative position of court composer and not the genius Mozart. I'm sure in the years ahead, the next Creative Europe programme will help some talented creatives with their careers. Whether it will prove to be value for money is doubtful, and whether it will foster the miraculous birth of the long-awaited European demos, more doubtful still.